Okay guys, usually I work on cars, but here's just a little bit of maintenance that you have to do. This is a Champion 4000 peak watts, 3500 continuous. Model 46514, single phase, 120 to 240 volts, you know. Got your 120 volt receptacle here. There's a 120 volt, but it's a different style. It's for more amps, 30 amp versus 20 amp. See how it has the, T instead of the slot. That's 20 amp. But then here's the 30 amp 240 with the turn prongs to lock it in. Of course, you get your switch it over. 15 amp circuit breakers, because you really shouldn't be running anything over 15 amps with this thing. This is just to get you by as far as your fridge. This isn't a whole house generator. Here's your voltmeter. When I was using it, it was pegged at 120. It was very nice. I even double checked it with my meter, because I don't always trust the meters on these things, being they get banged around all the time. But the needle does seem to zero. So there's your wire for your kill switch right there. Here's fuel on, right there and off. Here's your pull start, and then there's your choke lever above your air filter. Pretty much standard. The spark plug's on the other side. Right now I had no power from Friday afternoon all the way until last night, which I guess would be March 4th, 2018. But, you never know when it's coming on. And it just so happened to be that I was the last block. Everybody else had power. I was the last block. So I had my furnace, wired in my furnace. It's just a gun burner. It was a gas one. I did a retrofit using the old oil furnace firebox. That's another story. So I wired in that, and I wired in the fridge. Let your fridge, sometimes it takes time after the startup, because it has an initialization that it has to go through, and especially with these twin compressor setups on these newer ones, newer refrigerators. So give it time. There should be a light on the main board in the back if you're unsure. You could always test for voltage coming out of the plug on the generator here. But I have seen some people complain about that, and usually they're running a really skinny cord, like 100 feet, and there's a possibility that you're going to get some voltage drop. I guess I can't figure out, unless their refrigerator isn't getting enough watts. I mean, the startup watts for refrigerators usually around, I don't know, I guess it could be up to 2,000 watts on some of these twin stage compressors and stuff. And I mean, that should actually be easier. It uses the first compressor to start up, and it has I guess it has a second compressor for backup to keep it running back and forth, power cooling and regular cooling, I guess, right? All these new ones have the power cool option. Just guessing here. But usually, after it's started and stuff, it should only be pulling like 1200 watts, which with this one, the 35 continuous, it leaves, more than half to do something else. And of course, each one only runs some of the time. Once their fridge is cool, it'll shut off and then turn back on to maintain. Same with the furnace. Once you're up to temp, it'll shut off and turn back on to maintain the heat setting. So it's really not that bad. Worked great. Let's see. Basically, they call for 5W30 for really cold conditions. The thinner the oil, the easier it is to start in cold conditions. Okay. I learned that from a guy running a Volkswagen 4-cylinder. Snapped his keyway. Stuck in 15 or 20 W50 or something like that, because he was beating his engine, but he thought he could beat it in the wintertime, but you know, it snowed and his car was covered for days and days. Now you think that that thick oil is going to be all thin and going to want to go through every single little passageway? No way. Snapped the keyway just like that, and he just got the engine rebuilt. So thin oil, okay, for the winter time. Thick oil for the summertime. Always remember that. So the thickest oil you should use in here is SAE 30. That's good for the upper ranges, you know. If you live in Arizona and stuff like that. 10W30 is good from 0 to the upper ranges, the upper heat ranges. And then, like I said, 5W30 is something you want to do in colder climates. You know, most of the time you're gonna lose power in the winter time. It always happens, or in the early spring. It just, you know, because trees falling down from ice and snow, you know, they're wet. Actually, they're wet because all the snowpack melts and just saturates the ground. So even if there's no snow weight, sometimes the ground gives way and the roots pop out, and then the tree just falls over. You know, and half the root pack might be holding it, but it's leaning on a power line. As they leave all these trees right next to the power lines, and those guys are always cutting them down, and they're always giving these guys crap for cutting too much of the tree down or whatever, but yet they want electricity. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You got to start letting these guys and the townships do their job. So anyway, yeah, this is an expansive video, covers many different concepts here and ideas and observations. And so anyway, I had to figure out how to get this thing up. I put it on top of a metal trash can. And I have an old tin foil thing from some salad that we had at a catering party, and for my father-in-law who passed. So drain it out. It's pretty much done. I'm gonna wipe up the little schmutz there. There's the checker and checker dipstick checker, whatever. I'm gonna put the plug back in, fill her up. Basically, you just fill it up till you can see it in the hole. Kind of like a transmission. When it starts to kind of get close to pouring out, you stop and you're good. And check your spark plug. Usually the gaps are anywhere between 28 thousandths and 32 thousandths. So you can roughly put it, you know, right at 30. But check your gap. You need an old-fashioned gap checker, you know. I used to have them in all the auto stores, but now they come pre-gap, so everybody just throws it away and puts a new one in, but you don't have to. If you're an old-fashioned guy, you can make that spark plug last until the electrode's gone. Doesn't matter, as long as you got good spark. If it starts sputtering and stuff like that, you know, chances are maybe it's time to change your spark plug. But always check your choke. Start it out under choke condition. You'll see the butterfly closed, right? That helps with compression, and you don't have all this cold air going in. It's hard for engines to start when you have all this cold air being sucked in. Let it gather some heat. You can help the fuel atomize and all that stuff. Has to get warm to efficiently go on a cold engine. But anyway, the after that, you just slowly bring it over to the run condition, and it might not be exactly where the sticker is. You just find that spot where it idles nice and smooth and leave it there, and come back and check it, and if you have to move it a little bit, move it a little bit more. But other than that, I guess that's it. A couple of things for safety, actually. Hold on, one more thing. Safety is you definitely want to ground these things, okay? Because should something happen, which it's all over the internet. You Google generator causes house fire, you name it, from a piece of paper flying and landing right on the exhaust, okay? And this thing full of gas, somehow it happened. You try and wrap your head around the situation, but you're already wasting your time because it happened. So you might as well just be safe instead of sorry, I guess, that old saying. But also something else, if it's raining outside and you have a device generating electricity and you're standing on wet ground, you better watch it. Go out there with rubber boots, put this thing up on blocks of wood. This has no wheels. Get a wheel kit with rubber tires. Make sure they're rubber, not plastic, okay? Because not all plastics are as dielectric as you think they are, which means that they don't generate electricity or conduct electricity, you know, as well. You know, with all these recycled plastics and all this stuff, they figure, hey, you know, it's rubber tires or whatever. There's bits and pieces of metal all over the place in this stuff. It's stuff that people don't tell you. And if you want to gamble on that 1 in a million chance, that's on you, but I'd rather you not. So, it's always good to actually have this thing, you know, build a makeshift little lean-to over top of it. Whatever you got to do to make sure it doesn't get wet. Okay? Because if you can't have water linking this to the ground, you're good. If you have this far away, put in a grounding rod. I just had to put 2 of them in my rental. It's a pain in the butt, but it's worth it. And leave it out there in your property. If you're going to sell your house, also put it in a listing. You got a grounding rod outside for your generator. You know, hook your house up. Put a generator input in there for $240, and you can get a bigger one, or even this one here. You can run a couple different things off of that. But remember the running watts. Okay? Watts are watts. You can't just change watts into anything else. They are what they are, and it is what it is. Okay, I'll let you guys go. Stay safe.